The Slovak puppet state of Germany paid 500 Reichsmarks for each deported Jew. The main thing was that they should never return to their original place, and they did not indeed return. They were sent to concentration camps, and not many managed to get out alive. Helena Citronova was sent to Auschwitz in March 1942. At that time, she was only 19 years old. She realized that there was no way back from this death camp. But young people were not immediately sent to the gas chambers. Their strength and health had to be used rationally. So the squad in which Helena was sent to demolish the old buildings, which were to be replaced by new barracks. There was a chance to die under the rubble, as it had already happened to their friends before their eyes. To survive, and they desperately wanted to, they had to go to work in other units. For example, Canada, it was a sorting station where they sorted out the belongings of new arrivals. The most valuable trophies, gold, jewelry, silverware, were sent to Germany. Helena tried to sneak into this unit by wearing a robe and tying the shawl of a woman from Canada who had died. But the warder quickly spotted the stranger and reported her. Most likely, Helena would have been sent to the gas chamber for disobedience, but here was a unique opportunity. Capo, prisoners who cooperated with the camp administration, came to their unit and asked who sings in German and recites well. Helena was silent, but her neighbors began to push at her side. Go, maybe you'll get into Canada. Turns out it was one of the officers' birthdays. Suppressing a lump in her throat from crying, she sang a German song she had learnt as a teenager. It wasn't love. The German popular song, It Wasn't Love. After she finished, the officer suddenly asked her to sing again, adding an unexpected please. She dared to look at him and saw not just a uniformed guard, but a handsome, well-built young man with piercing blue eyes. Franz Wunsch was 22 years old at the time. He was from Austria and joined the SS at the age of 18 because he thought it was an elite unit. He had been to the Eastern Front, where he was wounded and therefore was seconded to the concentration camp guards, where he rose to the rank of SS Unterscharführer and was in charge of the Canada unit. They were young, beautiful, but the war had separated them into two irreconcilable sides in which an equal union was impossible to imagine. Wunsch fell in love with Helena. He transferred her to work in his division, and one day, when no one was watching, slipped a note into her hand. Helena didn't read it completely, seeing only the phrase, "Darling, I love you," and hurriedly destroyed it. This connection was dangerous for both of them. Once he took a photograph of her in her arresting striped uniform, where she was smiling broadly and genuinely. After printing some cards, he cut out her face and made some photo collages for his personal diary of them together by the sea. In a peaceful life, they would never live together. His obsession was impossible to ignore. Detainees and officers alike saw it. Helena was once questioned about her connection to Wunsch, but she denied it. Despite the fact that the prisoners from Canada were often used as servants or even sex slaves, Franz's love for Helena was apparently platonic. Helena realized her power over the officer and, at times, disobeyed some of his demands. For example, she refused to bandage his hand when he injured himself while beating a Jewish prisoner. In a normal situation, Helena would have faced imminent death for doing so. Helena's gratitude was reciprocated when he helped rescue her sister, who had arrived at the concentration camp in October 1944 with her children and husband from the gas chamber. They were almost in the gas chamber when one of the prisoners recognized her and informed Helena. She rushed towards the gas chamber. Wunsch ran after her. In front of the guards, he started to beat her, pretending that she had broken the rules, but when he had the chance, he whispered, "Tell me your sister's name quickly." But She asked him to get her young children out too, to which he said, "They have no place here, they can't survive." He was able to save his sister Rosa, but the children and husband died. When Rosinka learnt about the death of her children, she almost lost her mind for some time. She was in prostration, could not work, sat staring at one point, but he turned a blind eye to it. Although such prisoners should have been punished or even destroyed. For 2.5 years, the affair lasted. Wunsch shared his food with Helena, brought her warm clothes and bedding. Undoubtedly, it was only because of him that she was able to survive in this death camp. In the winter of 1944, it became obvious that the prisoners would be transferred to another camp as the Soviet army was approaching. He said goodbye to Helena as he was being sent to the front. The German troops were suffering heavy losses. He took 2 pairs of fur clogs from the warehouse and gave them to his beloved, and in a note, he gave the address of his mother, who lived in Vienna, saying that she would take care of his sisters. But when Franz left, Helena crumpled up the note and threw it into the snow. The whole history of Auschwitz passed before her eyes. Nearly 1 million innocent people were burned in the concentration camp ovens. She could not imagine becoming the wife of a German officer. After the Soviet liberation of Auschwitz, Helena and Rosa walked back to their native Slovakia, but none of their relatives and acquaintances from the Jewish community were there. Everyone had perished. Simon Wiesenthal lived out his days in Vienna, writing books and not only memoirs. In one of his works, he researched the life of Christopher Columbus, proving his Jewish origin. Simon devoted all his free time to his hobby, which was recommended to him by his doctor after his release from the concentration camp to calm his nerves: philately. Simon collected a good collection of postage stamps issued by the Zemstvo boards of the Russian Empire. In 2003, Celia died. Simon outlived his faithful wife by 2 years and died in Vienna at the age of 96. His ashes were solemnly buried in the Israeli Herzliya. After the death of the main hunter for the Nazis, his work continues. His work, founded in 1977 in Los Angeles Human Rights Simon Wiesenthal Center, which is also engaged in the study of the history of the Holocaust and the problems of anti-Semitism. The center's staff still manages to track down those who were at least indirectly involved in the Nazi death camps. Write in the comments interesting stories that you know from that time. It will be very interesting to read. Friends, thank you for watching. This connection was dangerous for both of them. Once he took a photograph of her in her arresting striped uniform, where she was smiling broadly and genuinely. After printing some cards, he cut out her face and made some photo collages for his personal diary of them together by the sea. In a peaceful life, they would never live together. His obsession was impossible to ignore. Detainees and officers alike saw it. Helena was once questioned about her connection to Wunsch, but she denied it. Despite the fact that the prisoners from Canada were often used as servants or even sex slaves, Franz's love for Helena was apparently platonic. Helena realized her power over the officer and, at times, disobeyed some of his demands. For example, she refused to bandage his hand when he injured himself while beating a Jewish prisoner. In a normal situation, Helena would have faced imminent death for doing so. Helena's gratitude was reciprocated when he helped rescue her sister, who had arrived at the concentration camp in October 1944 with her children and husband from the gas chamber.